Welcome to the Books on Air podcast. I'm Suzanne Harris, and my listeners get the secret story behind every book. Joining me today is someone I can't wait to introduce you to. Her name is Teressa Hill, and she's here to talk about her delightful children's book, The Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles, The Mystery of the Blue Goo, which is the first in the series of the Blue Goo series. Now, Teressa Hill is an amazing person. She's an award-winning hairstylist. She was trained as a competitive figure skater, and she traveled a lot. During her downtime from traveling, she found herself writing short stories and poetry. She also loved to sketch. Later in her life, after she had decided that she was not going to compete anymore in her competitive skating career, she became good enough that she sold several of her paintings because she was an accomplished painter. When she finished her skating career, she became a film and television hairstylist. This is when she began writing screenplays. I'm amazed at this woman. Her work as a hairstylist is in numerous national and international magazines, and we could name drop all day the number of movies and films that she has worked on. You would recognize the title of every one of them. Teressa, it is such a pleasure to welcome you to Books on Air.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that introduction. It's great to be here, and I'm really thrilled by the fact of the reception of the Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles in this series. I'm very, very pleased with the reception it's received from fans. I'm
very curious. It came to me one day, before I started to do an interview, that every book has two stories. There's the story that the reader gets, that the author has written, and they read. But then there's always a story behind the book. There's always a backstory. What's the backstory behind the development of The Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles and the Mystery of the Blue Goo? I keep wanting to say glue, but it's goo.
I know you should read the book. Goodness gracious, I'm telling you, the readers out there, it's told in rhythm and rhyme. It's very lyrical, which is great if English is your second language. It's a great learning tool to actually learn the English language. But it also, I think, engages young children, and it keeps their parents or teachers on their toes. So the book, the series and the characters themselves, we have Gracie Pacey. Pacey is her last name, who is 7 years old. And then we have Sniggles, her best friend, who's a wrinkly Shar-Pei that wears a top hat and bow tie. And then we have the crotchety old crow, Bob, and Lucy, the pink cat, who's a bit of a diva. And then we have Ziggy, the squirrel, who's just anxiety-ridden and full of, everything's, doomed. He's always very, very nervous. And then we have Mr. Finkelstein, who is a retired wizard who lives next door. So all of these characters were based off of animals that I had growing up. And Mr. Finkelstein actually is based off Susie Finkelstein, who was a dog walker I had for many, many years, who passed on from cancer while I was developing the characters. So what happened was I was actually creating what's called in the film and television, I should say television industry, it's called an animation Bible. And you will find any cartoon that is animation that it's on television. There's a Bible that was built first by the, written first, built by the author. And it's something that you use as a tool to pitch it to studios. And I was putting this together because coming from film and television, having written a small body of work and I have a small body of work of screenplays, coming from this industry, it was kind of just the obvious path for me to take. So I created the characters, and I wrote the Bible. I put it together, including 7 episodes, and I gave it to a production company that had it for about 6 months. And they got back to me, and they actually, very, very big production company, I should add that. They had decided to pass on it, and they ended up closing their children's division. Oh. And I know, but the one thing that this gentleman that I spoke to on the phone, he was so lovely. They loved the characters. They loved the story. And he had suggested, he goes, if I could make a suggestion to you, and I was very open, I'm always open to suggestions. And he said, you should make this into a series of books. I think you would do quite well with this. Well, many years forward, about 5, we're in a international pandemic, and everybody is, on lockdown, and anybody who understands the creative process, it's kind of like that is kind of a golden opportunity because you can't go anywhere.
It's a
I
gift.
like to get up and unfortunately, many people lost their lives, and that is the downside of what happened, and that we all had to go through that. But we went through it together, and those of us that survived, I'm very grateful that I survived and I didn't come down with COVID. I did lose some relatives to that dreadful disease, COVID-19. But during the lockdown, I took advantage of it, being in my place, and I started to write a screenplay. And the subject matter was racism. And it got really, really, it's a true story, and it's a very heavy subject matter. And instead of, then we had the Black Lives Matter that took hold. Unfortunately, the death, it's just, there was a lot going on during that time. And I basically had to take a step back, and I wanted to do something a little lighter. And so I was going through a lot of my files, and I came across my characters. And that's when I decided to set that screenplay aside, which I am definitely going to continue doing. But I pulled out these characters, and I started writing the books. The Mystery of the Blue Goo was the first. Boo Hoo was the second. And my third, which I'm working on right now, is Magical Mo. And every one of the series actually deals with an issue that we as a society face, and subject matters that are very difficult to sometimes talk about for some people, and some people don't want to talk about them, and especially with children, but they're not in your face, and they're gently told, and they are, I think, and I have been told by teachers and psychologists, that they are beautifully put, and they are lighthearted. They make you giggle. They might even bring a tear to your eye.
Oh, they're so clever. You're just such a clever writer. And I love the fact that in the first book, you use a little bee that's gotten in trouble somehow with the Blue Goo, and he's blue, and now the queen bee won't let him back in the hive.
Because he doesn't match the rest of his fellows. He's not yellow. And so he's not accepted because of his color. And it is definitely gently told. It is about acceptance, tolerance, and friendship, and how important all of those things are, those 3 things, for both adults and children alike, to accept and tolerance and friendship.
Would you share a little bit of the book with us?
Oh, sure. Okay, so Sniggles has actually where this takes off the passage I'm going to read. Sniggles, the Sharpei, has discovered a little bee who was settled on a nettle, and he was crying. And he befriends him and takes him back to the shack where Gracie and the rest are having a snack. So this is where he is introduced to the gang. "Dry your eyes, little Bumble," Sniggles gave him a snuggle. Gracie replied as she stood by his side, "Your color doesn't matter. We don't see the blue, we see you." Then Lucy purred, "There's no rejection. We're all perfection." Ziggy handed Bumble a tissue and said, "Don't worry, little bee. We'll get you home. No need to be sad. You're not alone." Bumble dried his eyes and blew his nose. "Without a doubt, we'll figure this out. Before you know it, you'll be home in the hive where you can thrive," Bob crowed. That's when Gracie leaned in with her quizzing glass to get a closer look at the blue goo. "We don't mean to be prying while you're crying, but we need a clue about this goo," Gracie said. "The blue goo is the first clue. The rose you sense with your nose where you tied your shoe will be our second clue." Suddenly, Lucy's ears began to twitch in different directions, like a periscope on a submarine. "Shh, I detect noise," she whispered. She poised herself, her tail flicking and flailing. They all froze and leaned in with an ear to hear.
Just like we're all doing right now. You're terrible, Teressa. You're terrible. I love it. The book.
Thank you.
Oh, the book is wonderful. And the illustrations, I really like the illustrations. There's usually a really special relationship between children's book authors and the person who draws for that person, because children's books, I told you this off air, but I'll say it again on air. Children's books are very special as far as I'm concerned. The authors who write children's books are unique in that you choose a subject, and then you have to take that subject and you have to make it interesting for a child. You have to make it so that they'll do exactly what you have already said. They'll laugh and giggle, and there'll be something about it that will catch their attention. And the illustrations are often a very important part of that. Tell me about the illustrator.
I adore her. We have become very, very good friends. Corinne lives in Romania, and ironically enough, I have developed the characters, and then I obviously did a lot of research and was interviewing and talking to different illustrators when I decided to move forward with this. And I chose her because of the work that she submitted to me. It was very whimsical, and that's exactly what my books are, whimsical. And she got it. And so we moved forward. I gave her what I had, and with all of the main characters and some of the forthcoming characters that are going to be in the books ahead, to see, what we could do. And so we went back and forth, but she got it, and she nailed it. I mean, I just love what she did with the characters. She took them to the next level. And I really am pleased with where we're going with the new characters that we're going to be introducing to everybody soon. So very, very excited about it. The illustrations are just crazy off the charts good. I mean, they are just so entertaining. And I put a lot of illustrations in the book. The book is completely coming from film and television, right? I mean, a picture tells 1,000 stories. Yep. So you could literally just turn the pages and kind of understand what the story is about. And that's what also makes it fun too, is of course the illustrations. And very, very pleased with where it landed. And on the note of Corinne, she, her country, ironically enough, was being invaded by Turkey. when she was illustrating this book, a book of tolerance, friendship, and acceptance.
Wow.
And it was, a very trying time for her and her family. Her brother and her husband had to go to the front lines and fight. And now her country has opened up the doors to receive a lot of refugees from Ukraine. And it's interesting. It's just, the world that we live in today. And I just hope that these children's books actually help that they help to guide a child and help a child to navigate maybe a difficult situation, or maybe they connect with a character and that character sticks with them. Maybe the character says something or does something in the storylines that they remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, I have those childhood stories and books that I will always remember,
I think we all do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all do. What age group did you have in mind, or do you think would enjoy reading the book?
Well, good question. Because I think 4 to 8 is a great great age range, but it's a really fun book to read to children that are a bit younger. The books are long, so just a little bit at a time. The second book is in chapters, 10 small chapters, and then I think that depending upon what the reading skill level is at, it could also be great for a 9, 10, or 11-year-old. They're fun books. I think they're fun. I mean, I hope that doesn't sound
no,
but they're fun books.
You're passionate about your work, and it comes through in your voice. And I know that we have talked about the book enough so that our listeners are saying, okay, where can I get this book already? So let me tell you, it's available on Amazon. Surprise, surprise. Now, let me give you the full title of the book, and let me spell Teressa's name for you. The full title of the book is The Wildly Whimsical, WHIMSICAL, Tales, TALES, of Gracie, GRACIE, and Sniggles, SNIGGLES, The Mystery of the Blue Goo. Now, that's book 1. We're going to talk about the other books in a few minutes, by Teressa, TERESSA, Hill, HILL. If you put that, The Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles, all 3 books will come up. And you'll see the first one will be The Mystery of the Blue Goo, and you'll see how wonderful the illustrations are and how colorful. Kids will just love these books. Now, I know that some of our listeners don't want to buy books from Amazon just because it's such a big player in the book market. I know that they're all looking for other places that perhaps they could buy books. Now, you have a whole bunch of sources on your website, so let's give them the address of your website and tell them what else is there too.
Oh, I would love to. My website is Teressa Hill, that's TeressaHill.com. You can go on my website and you can see the different places in which you can actually access the book. You can, a lot of people today do buy a lot of things online, but you can take the ISBN number off of my website, and you can go into any bookstore, local, small business, and have them order it for you, and it can be delivered to the store or to your home. You can also look to see all the different places, Target, Walmart, all the different places that also offer this service as well. So you've got several options there.
Now, what else is on your website? I know I looked at it, and there's a big bio of you. And what else will they find there?
Well, you can actually see a little bit of both books. You can read some of the reviews that have been written about the book. You can also read some of the press release. You can see up and coming books that I have lined up. And also, too, you can see some of the charities that are very near and dear to me. I'm a huge advocate. If you guys haven't noticed already, I'm a huge advocate for children and for animals.
And you're donating. I think this is important for us to mention. You're donating the proceeds of these books to
all the royalties,
different organizations.
All my royalties from The Mystery of the Blue Goo are going to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And on that note, I also have donated books to the Ronald McDonald houses where the families stay for free. St. Jude's also has some other houses, too, that I've also given to where children's parents and families stay for free. And they have libraries there. And I highly suggest any authors that are listening today to donate to those libraries. It's, I thought since the proceeds from The Mystery of the Blue Goo are going to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, I should have the books available for the children and their families to read. I also am giving my royalties from Boo Hoo to the ASPCA, which is the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So all the proceeds from the second book will be going to that charity as well. I give to many, which you'll see when you go to my website. I give to charities as much as I can. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not a billionaire, but right. I do what I can to help where I can.
I think that it's just extraordinary that you're doing that, and I think it's wonderful. That's literally putting your money where your proverbial mouth is, if you'll pardon the expression. Now, we've talked a little bit about the other two books. Blue Goo is the first. The second one is Boo Hoo, and that's a little Halloween theme book that is adorable. I've sneaked a peek. You. Yes, I sneaked a peek at that as well. And I just think you have done... These characters are so clever. I love that it's in rhyme. I just think, I don't mean to keep raving, Teressa, but if I had a kid, a grandchild, if I knew someone that was having a baby, what a fabulous, fabulous gift the three of the books would make. And I know the third one is due to come out when?
Actually, we are scheduling that to come out this summer. The title is The Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles, Magical Mo.
I love that title. I love that title. So I'm going to ask you one little in-depth question here at the end, because I always think it's really, really, really important for an author to have the last word about their work, especially when their work is as near and dear to their heart as yours is. When our listeners purchase the book, whether they buy it as an adult to read to a child as a bedtime story, or they buy it and give it as a gift to a child so the child will be able to read it themselves, or they're a grandparent and they love to buy those books and sit down and read with grandchildren. Whatever the case may be, whenever they get to that very last page of The Mystery of the Blue Goo and they finish that last page and they close that back cover for the last time, what's the bottom line message you want the reader to take away and the kids to take away from Blue Goo?
Acceptance, as I mentioned before, of others, tolerance, and friendship, the importance of that, and that we are all perfectly imperfect. And we are all, we all have feelings. And I really hope that, again, the mystery of the Blue Goo, does deal with acceptance of others, and then the next Boo-hoo deals with facing your fears. And then, it's just, they're all basically built on different, like I said, things that, subject matters in which society faces, whether you're an adult or a child. And I truly hope that it helps to helps a child to navigate any difficulties that they might come across in their lifetime, and I hope it sticks with them, and share the love.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that kindness is also another theme that I detected in the books. You have just done a wonderful job, Teressa, and it's been delightful and an absolute pleasure to have you as my guest on Books on Air. Thank you so very much for coming and talking with me. Well, I
appreciate it. I greatly appreciate you having me. And also, too, your listeners can also pick up the book on Apple and Audible. It's been narrated by Joanne Lee, who's from London, England, and she does a smashing job bringing the characters to life, which makes it so much more fun to turn the page with her. So I wanted everybody to know that.
Well, and if you've got a parent or a grandparent or whatever who doesn't have time, this would be a wonderful thing to do, to get that audio book for the kids. I agree.
Yes.
No.
So I hope everybody enjoys the books, and I'm really excited to see how the reception of Magical Mo. That's going to be a delightful book. I'm very excited for this one.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Remember, you can find the wonderful book, The Wildly Whimsical Tales of Gracie and Sniggles, The Mystery of the Blue Goo, Book 1. At Amazon and many, many other places. Go to Teressa's website, get that ISBN number, and you can get it from anywhere. It's such a pleasure.
TeressaHill.com.
Yeah, don't forget. You've been listening to the Books on Air podcast, brought to you on webtalkradio.net. You can also hear this podcast on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I'm Suzanne Harris, and I hope you'll join me for our next Books on Air podcast, because remember, you never know who we're going to talk to, and you never know what we're going to talk about. Thank you so very much for listening.